I was on the field again for day 5 of Buffalo Bills training camp, and I'm sharing all of my firsthand observations today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, folks, welcome in. Day 5 of Buffalo Bills training camp is in the books. I had the opportunity to take in that practice from the field, and I have plenty of observations to share with you today. I do want to start off by saying this. It is July 29th. The Bills play a game on September 8th. There is so much left to play out. We've got a bunch of training camp practices left. We have the entire preseason to go. And so while we are keeping tabs on everything that's going on with the Buffalo Bills, and we're looking for trends in player evaluation and what opportunities players are getting, you still got to let it play out. And so while there are some big narratives that have formed to this point that are rooted in what has happened, we've got to acknowledge that there's a lot of time for these things to play out. It is still very early. We have had 5 camp practices. We are still weeks away from the first preseason game. So just keep that in mind as you take your own journey through this Bills offseason and this lead up to the 2024 campaign, that there is so much to play out. And so just have that lens as you consume this analysis and all analysis between now and when roster cuts happen. All right, so let's get into it. We've got some participation stuff to get into. The Bills had 3 players miss on Monday due to injury. Offensive lineman Mike Edwards, he's in the concussion protocol. Wide receiver Chase Claypool, he is day-to-day with a toe injury. And the big one is Mike Edwards, the safety. He is week-to-week with a hamstring injury. That's notable. He's going to miss time, right? Week-to-week means there's going to be a fair amount of time that he's going to miss. And Sean McDermott said that the plan for Mike Edwards was for him to take the starting reps during the spring. And so that didn't happen because he was working back from a shoulder injury. And now here we are in training camp, and Mike Edwards has had opportunities to rotate in with the first team, and he's out now with a hamstring injury. And he's losing another opportunity to start and get reps and earn the trust of the coaches and the players. You've heard Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott repeatedly talk about the importance of communication and the players in front of the safeties trusting the safeties. And it just feels like he's losing a lot of time. And so with that in mind, it certainly swings the door wide open for Damar Hamlin and Cole Bishop to make this safety competition opposite of Taylor Rapp about them. And so Sean McDermott was asked about Cole Bishop today, and his answer was a little bit different than when he was asked about him on day 1 of training camp. Sean McDermott on Cole Bishop said, the thing we were looking for was growth over the course of the break, and the break being the time between mandatory OTAs and training camp. McDermott said it's been clear that he put in a lot of time on the mental end of things with the scheme and mastering the scheme. There's still work to do, but he's improving, and he's understanding the importance of communicating. And so I feel like we're on a much better path here with Cole Bishop, who got the opportunity to start next to Taylor Rapp in Monday's practice. And so we had Damar Hamlin yesterday. You thought this would be Mike Edwards' turn, but he's injured. Cole Bishop gets that opportunity, and we'll see how the rotation plays out from here with Mike Edwards now taking a backseat role. There were also veteran rest days today for 3 players. Matt Milano didn't practice, Von Miller didn't practice, and Taron Johnson didn't practice, all with scheduled vet rest days. And with those guys out, of course, it opens the opportunity for other guys to play. The linebacker that played instead of Matt Milano was Dorian Williams. We'll comment more on his performance, but he got the starting reps next to Terrel Bernard. With Von Miller out, it certainly opened the door for more reps for A.J. Epinesa and DeJuan Smoot. And with Taron Johnson out, Cam Lewis got the first opportunity to play with the first team, but I found it to be interesting that the guy who got the next reps and sometimes with the starters was Jamarcus Ingram. And I think Jamarcus Ingram is quietly putting together a good camp. He flashed yesterday when it came to special teams. He had some very good one-on-one reps, and then he showed some more versatility today by working from the slot. And so that is meaningful. I've commented on my belief that Jamarcus Ingram is the penciled-in CB4 on the outside, but if he can also provide value as a depth player at slot and be good on special teams, that's really going to make that roster spot that he's trying to claim pretty attractive for him to be the guy that holds the job, just given the more that you can do, and that of course brings more value to the football team. So nice opportunity here for Jamarcus Ingram. Another big highlight from what Sean McDermott said before practice and then what happened during practice and what's been a major theme of training camp is Tyrell Shavers. Sean McDermott on Tyrell Shavers. This is what he said, and these are some very, very straightforward remarks. He said, "I'm very impressed. Even if you go back to his rookie season, even when he wasn't playing, he was so consistent with his approach. First in, last out type of guy. Knows what we're doing offensively. When you look up consistent in the dictionary, his face shows up." Sean McDermott said, "I have a lot of respect and appreciation for his consistency at such a young age." That's a big deal that he said all that, on top of all the first and second team reps that Tyrell Shavers has been getting, and he's made some plays. And so what's funny is if you go back to my first 53-man roster projection coming out of the draft before the Bills signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I had Tyrell Shavers and KJ Hamler making the roster. And here we are. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is here. Chase Claypool is also here. And I'm starting to feel a whole lot better about Tyrell Shavers and KJ Hamler making the roster just due to versatility. Those guys can do more. And it was another quiet day for Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I don't recall a single target that he received during team drills. And you start to just wonder. Now, this goes back to what I opened the podcast with by reminding you that it's still late July. There's a lot of time to play out, but the opportunities just haven't been there for MVS. Now, it is worth noting, and it is very meaningful, that MVS's contract is fully guaranteed. $2.25 million, fully guaranteed. Plus, there's 4 void years on the back end of this deal. There was certainly a lot of intent when the Bills signed MVS for him to make this team. But right now, other players are getting opportunities, and they're taking advantage of them, and MVS feels like a complete afterthought. We'll let it play out. There's a lot of time. Things change quick. But as of now, it just doesn't look good there. Meanwhile, it does look good for a guy like Tyrell Shavers. And I want to bring to your attention something that's very important. The Bills only rostered 5 wide receivers last year. That's it. They didn't roster 6. And so if you look at this wide receiver core as Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, and Mac Hollins, I think those 4 receivers are absolutely locked in. If the Bills only keep 5 like they did last year, there's only one more spot. And so that means Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Chase Claypool, who's missing time right now with the toe, KJ Hamler, Tyrell Shavers, Andy Isabella, Justin Shorter. All these guys are in the mix for potentially 1, at the very most 2 spots. So that's something to keep in mind. And as you consider some of the hard decisions that are going to come for the Bills, at offensive line, hard decisions at defensive end and defensive tackle. They're probably going to prioritize the extra trench player over a sixth wide receiver that might not be able to do more than run a deep route. So there's just a lot to consider with that conversation, and I find it to be very fascinating, something we'll continue to pay very, very close attention to. All right, folks, on the other side of it, we're going to start talking about what happened in team drills. The pads were on today, plenty of takeaways, and then later on I want to talk a lot about the trenches. I spent some time really observing that, and I have some observations to share with you folks. Be sure to stick with me. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. And one of my favorite things about what you can check out over at FanDuel is all the football's future bets. So whether it's projected win totals, the over-under for teams, it's statistical projections for players, the awards and the different odds that are associated with players and coaches for awards. I am having fun with those over at FanDuel. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, folks, day 5 of Buffalo Bills training camp in the books, and the pads came on, and that's exciting. You always hear coaches talk about it really starts to matter when the pads come on. Well, the pads came on, and I have things to share about what I observed. I think the general theme of the practice today was working on the run game and working on play action. Those were clearly the emphasis of what the offense was trying to do, run the football and then work in their play action concepts off of that. And I thought this was a bit more of a back and forth day, offense and defense, where I think maybe you've watched this team practice to this point and you feel like the offense has had the better hand, and they certainly had a lot of great moments, but it felt a little bit more back and forth. But I will say, yet again, a very strong day for QB1 Josh Allen. And you'd hope that. I think Josh Allen's one of the best play action quarterbacks in the NFL. And so he got to do that a ton in this practice. And you saw him, a lot of play action rollout stuff where Josh would sell the fake and then bootleg and roll to his right or roll to his left and then look for routes. And you know he loves that over route. And so the over route is when somebody from one side of the formation runs over, right? Literally runs over through the defense and tries to present themselves available kind of at the hash working towards the numbers, and the quarterback will roll out and throw it. Josh Allen's hit this throw so many times. It's probably one of the more consistent routes that Josh Allen's able to hit, and he hits it both directions, left and right, and he was layering them in there all day long. He had big throws down the field on over routes to Khalil Shakir, one to Tyrell Shavers, one to Curtis Samuel, and by far the best one was to Keon Coleman. I had a really fun vantage point of that Keon Coleman throw. I was standing right at the baseline, the back line of the end zone, and the Bills they might have been on like the 10-yard line, so very close to me. And I'm watching Josh Allen kind of roll out, and I'm looking down the field. I'm like, I don't think he has anywhere to go with this ball. And he just rips one in there to Keon Coleman, who had the coverage was really tight, and Josh just ripped it. It was right. It stuck it right in his gut, and Keon Coleman made the play. I mean, it was a wow moment. I was standing next to Alex Brasky of the Batavia Daily News, and I literally said, wow, out loud. That was a really special play. So it was fun to see the play action rollouts and all the success that they had there. I thought another big Josh Allen throw came to Khalil Shakir on a seam route to the middle of the field. Do you remember the play against the Jets last year? Josh Allen hit Khalil Shakir over the middle, and he winds up catching and running and scoring it was 70, 80 yards. It was very far. The play where Dalton Kincaid ran down the field and blocked 3 guys. It felt a lot like that play, and it was another play that I got a chance to watch just directly behind Josh Allen, and to kind of just see the window that he saw and just fit the ball, just layer it over the second level and just perfectly hitting Khalil Shakir in stride down the seam. I was like, oh my goodness, that's a special throw. So some big plays down the field in today's practice, working the play action. I don't think that one that I just talked about, the seam shot to Khalil Shakir, was a play action play, but one heck of a throw and route and catch that really, one of those jaw droppers where you knew it was a special play. So those were some of my favorite standouts from Josh Allen in observing the team drills and kind of what they were working on. Some other notes from team. I thought that the defense did a pretty good job defending the run. And I would say structurally the Bills' run offense looks a little bit like it did last year, but so many pullers and so many moving parts and shifts. And I think the Bills are going to lead the league in pulling offensive linemen. I'll tell you that. They love to get these guys moving, and they're athletic. They got a good mix of movement skills and power, and you can tell Coach Cromer is wanting to unleash these guys and use that power and that mobility to create running lanes, and then introduce gaps, right? I think that's one of the major benefits in pulling offensive linemen is you set a lineup and there's a formational strength, and defenses fit the run a certain way. But then when you pull a lineman and now they become a play side blocker, there's now gaps that have been introduced that the defense didn't have a picture of pre-snap and post-snap. Now there's more gaps and they have to kind of change their run fits and be mindful of that on the fly. It's very difficult. So if you can execute, if your lineman can do it, it can create a lot of challenges for the defense. And you can see the Bills have pulling linemen a big part of what they want to be, which means a lot of gap runs, which I think fits well the running backs that the Bills do have. Terrel Bernard had a big-time tackle for loss. I think it might have been the first or second play of the team drills. Shot the gap, was able to tackle Ty Johnson for a loss, and it was actually a play where Ty Johnson got hurt. It kind of felt like as Terrel Bernard was getting there, Ty Johnson was kind of reaching for his hamstring, so hopefully there's nothing there, and that Ty Johnson's going to be fine, but that's something that we need to be paying attention to going into tomorrow. But that, of course, created opportunity. James Cook was back in practice. He missed yesterday due to personal reasons. He was back today. So it's James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis. You lose Ty Johnson, and that opens the opportunity for Darrynton Evans to get some carries. And he had some explosive runs. That's kind of the name of the game with Darrynton Evans. Was a third-round pick out of Appalachian State, kind of known for his explosiveness. Now, he's bounced around a ton in a very short amount of time in the NFL, which is not necessarily an encouraging sign, including being part of the Bills last year during training camp. But in this practice, I thought he did a nice job of kind of finding space and then using that explosive gear to run to daylight, and he ripped off some very explosive runs. So the guy that really got some opportunity was Darrynton Evans with Ty Johnson going down. And I thought Darrynton Evans, one more thought there. I thought yesterday he had some very good moments on special teams on the punt team, getting down the field, beating blocks, and then being able to down the football. So some encouraging signs here for Darrynton Evans. I thought Frank Gore Jr. also had some good, strong inside carries where just a nice job navigating space. The Bills were thudding. They weren't tackling, but even in some of those thud moments, I thought he sustained himself pretty well and didn't really lose that forward momentum. So I thought Frank Gore Jr. had a pretty solid day. I thought Taylor Rapp did a good job filling from depth. Again, a lot of run plays. So Taylor Rapp getting on his horse, triggering, filling from depth, and getting downhill. I thought he had some good moments there. I thought Dorian Williams did a good job defending the run, and I think that's always kind of been where Dorian Williams has been at his best, even if you watch him at Tulane. And I think I remember one of my big questions with Dorian Williams kind of coming out of Tulane was he's a very experienced player, but it felt like everything that he did, his first step was playing forward, right? Downhill, into the line of scrimmage, making tackles, being physical. You didn't see a lot of instances where he's backpedaling and having to play in coverage and get his eyes in the right place and find crossers coming through his zone and capping them. And I thought that showed up last year on tape, and I thought it showed up a ton in practice today, where I'm talking about all these overs and play action bootleg, and Dorian Williams just repeatedly gets sucked up into the run fit, and he can't get back. He can't get back and get the depth that he needs in his coverage drop. And now all of a sudden you have all these crossers, all these overs that are just running free because Dorian Williams got bit too hard on the play fake and he's not in position. And I thought that showed up repeatedly today. So Not a good sign. I think there's great tape. Like Bobby Babich has some great tape, and Al Holcomb has some great tape to look at today to kind of point to this. But we need to see Dorian Williams grow in that capacity. Again, very good downhill play today. No question. It's the coverage stuff that continues to kind of be concerning as it relates to Dorian Williams. I would say that the best two linebackers not named Terrel Bernard today were Nicholas Moreau and Deion Jones, the two veterans. Like I thought very clearly they were the second best and third best linebackers on the field. And so sorting out this linebacker depth is going to be interesting. There's a lot that needs to play out, more reps in practice, preseason games, but I'm fascinated to see it. Right now it's Dorian Williams and Balen Spector, but I think Nicholas Moreau and Deion Jones have been kind of the better players. And so we'll see how that continues the rest of the way. Got another fumbled snap, folks. This one was under center. Connor McGovern to Josh Allen. Just wasn't a clean exchange. And yesterday I commented on the shotgun snaps and a couple of dribblers, a few where Josh Allen kind of had to find the ball. He had a fumbled snap in this practice. So that's not going away yet. And hopefully it will again. As I told you in the beginning of the conversation, it's July 29th. I mean, we got so much time left, but we want to see the fumbled snaps, the goofy snaps. We need that to go away. All right, I got more to say here. On the other side of it, I want to talk backup quarterbacks, and I want to give you my notes from watching the trenches, both team and one-on-one sessions. All that's coming up here in just a moment, so be sure to stick with me. Folks, the NFL season is here. So many fun games on the schedule. Some games I'm sure you want to get to at Highmark Stadium to watch the Bills. Maybe you want to catch an away game. Maybe you live in a different market and you want to go to an NFL game. Well, you have to check out Game Time. Download the Game Time app. It is the fast and easy way to purchase tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. The app is awesome, easy to navigate. They have flash deals. They give you last-minute ticket specials, view from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Plus, my favorite part, all-in prices. You don't have any surprise fees coming at the end of the purchase. They give you the full price from the outset with no surprises. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, before I get into the trench comments that I have, a reminder, Wednesday, is that the 31st? Yeah, Wednesday the 31st, I'm doing a live podcast with Pat Moran at Sunny Reds in Lackawanna. I think we're going to record at like 8 o'clock, but I want to get there at 6. That way, if there's anybody that is in the area that's available that wants to come in, say hello, I'd love to meet you guys. So come do that if you get an opportunity. Again, this Wednesday, Sunny Reds, that's the 30th of July. I'll be there about 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Would love to say hello to you guys if you are available. All right. Back to practice here. Trench notes coming, but I do have one comment that I would like to make about the backup quarterbacks. If you recall, last year when I was at camp, we had a lot of conversations about Kyle Allen and Matt Barkley as the QB2 and the QB3, and I was very nervous about either of them having to play because I thought they were rough. It was hard to watch them. It didn't feel like the offense had any life when those guys were running it. I would say it is a night and day difference. Like Mitchell Trubisky and Shane Buechele as the QB2 and the QB3, light years better than Allen and Barkley, Kyle Allen and Matt Barkley. I know that those are Josh Allen's friends, and Mitch Trubisky is Josh Allen's friend, but like their ability to function in this offense and play the quarterback position is drastically better. Even like, honestly, Shane Buechele, it's not always pretty with him, but it's so much better than what we saw from Barkley and Kyle Allen last year. So a lot more confidence in the Bills' quarterback depth right now. And I think it says a lot that like all these quarterbacks are looking pretty good, relatively speaking. Like Josh Allen through the lens of superstar quarterback, looking like a superstar quarterback. Mitch Trubisky as a guy that you expect to be a fairly high-profile backup, doing a nice job. And then Shane Buechele as a QB3, being able to keep his head above water, make a few throws, execute with some confidence. It's nice to see. Really, really stark difference compared to what we watched last year with Kyle Allen and Matt Barkley. All right, I have some notes from the trenches. I wanted to make this a priority of this practice. I wish I had more notes, but what I really tried to make sure of is that if I brought you takeaways, that they were like notable. And so I could sit here and comment on like just normal back and forth stuff, but these are things that I thought really stood out in terms of clean wins and stuff that I thought were consistent themes in watching the one-on-ones early in the practice. And then I watched, of course, team drills with a lot of my focus being on the O-line and D-line. I thought the biggest takeaway that I had was Greg Rousseau. I thought he got the better of Spencer Brown multiple times, probably at least 4 different reps where I thought Greg Rousseau had very clean wins over Spencer Brown. It started in the one-on-ones where I thought he beat him twice, pretty quick and pretty consistent. And then during team drills, he beat him for a clean sack, like a quick sack. Like sometimes there's a little bit of coverage and the rush can get there. No, this was, I beat you off the ball and made a sack. And then on the very next play, Spencer Brown false started. So very much a banner day for Greg Rousseau, which I guess on the other side of that as well, what's up with Spencer Brown? Not his best day. And so first day in pads, again, Spencer Brown, remember, he didn't have a normal offseason, working back from the shoulder. So you're kind of expecting this. So just be happy that Greg Rousseau looked awesome. And Rousseau is one of those guys, just physically imposing. You talk about first off the bus players and, if the idea of, okay, you show up at a football game, the first guy you want off the bus to be the intimidating presence for the other team. The Bills are picking Greg Rousseau every time. I mean, that guy is just built different. Just a absolute monster, big, wide, just a massive dude. Had a good day for sure. Gable Steveson. Hello. Hi. Gable Steveson, the wrestler. He flashed twice. Once in the one-on-ones, he completely dusted Alec Anderson, Bills reserve offensive lineman. And I think Alec Anderson's looked pretty good. But on that one particular rep, Gable Steveson just out-athleted him. And it's certainly an environment that favors a guy like Gable Steveson, one-on-one pass rush drills where there's no protection scheme, just be an athlete. Don't have to think. You don't have to rush through a lane. You're not setting up a stunt, nothing like that. Just beat this guy. And he beat Anderson very quick, out-leveraged him and out-quicked him. And then during the team session, he had a tackle for loss against the run. They're like, okay, a couple good things here for Gable Steveson. So he got some opportunity and did something with it. And obviously, it's July 29th. Let's see it play out. But that was a couple of good moments from him. I thought Kingsley Jonathan had a very nice day. He, in one-on-ones, I thought he had a couple of wins. Once against Tylen Gable, worked him completely. Thought he brought energy. You could tell that there was a lot of camaraderie around him. Like when he did something good, it felt like everybody was really happy about that. So he had 2 clean wins in one-on-ones, also had a sack in team drills. I think that might have been against Kevin Jarvis, if I'm not mistaken, but Kingsley Jonathan certainly flashed on at least 3 occasions. I thought the most fun O-line, D-line moment was in one-on-ones. It was Javon Solomon. Javon Solomon, the day 3 draft pick out of Troy. He bull rushed Tylen Gable and completely flat-backed Tylen Gable. So Javon Solomon just converted speed to power and literally ran him over, flat-backed him, and steamrolled him. It was a heck of a rep for Javon Solomon. Was able to get that speed to power conversion with good hand placement, fit on that inside chest plate, and it was game over for Grable real quick. It was a standout moment. And then I thought another one here, Keaton Bills, undrafted free agent to offensive lineman. He had 2 one-on-one reps that I watched. He clamped up his guy. Now, I think it was like against Bothyard one time in another like unlikely to make the team reserve defensive tackle. That's like a UDFA. Maybe it was Dean. So, guys that you're not expecting much from, but he completely clamped them up. Like was a stone wall in pass protection where those guys couldn't even get into a rush plan because Keaton Bills clamped them up. So I thought that was a standout moment from him. So there you have it. Day 5 observations in the books. Excited to be back on the practice field on Tuesday morning. The Bills are back at it 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. They're off on Wednesday, back on the practice field Thursday morning. I'll be there as well. And then we have the Blue-Red on Friday night at Highmark Stadium. So still a bunch of coverage coming your way this week. Don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow after practice.